Hi, I'm Chris Muchler, Principal Enterprise Architect and VCDX 257 from virtualelephant.com. And in this video, we are going to discuss the top 5 barriers that senior leaders have said are preventing them from executing their cloud transformation strategies. Let's get started. KPMG recently released a case study where they surveyed many senior leaders and line managers across the IT landscape to understand where they are having challenges and what is preventing them from executing on their digital transformation strategies. As part of this case study, titled Transforming the Enterprise of the Future, there were several key insights that I want to review in this video. First of all, it was interesting that both the senior leaders and the line managers stated that the first 3 barriers for them executing and realizing a successful digital transformation were all the same. It wasn't until they moved down in the stack to reasons 4 and 5 that we saw a divergence between what senior leaders thought were barriers and the line managers. What I found most interesting around this case study is that the first 3 barriers are really the barriers that I've been talking about as part of organizations executing a digital or cloud transformation. The first barrier that both senior leaders and the line managers agreed on was the lack of resources or skills or expertise within their workforce. I've spoken in the past on the criticality of enabling our individual contributors, our SREs, our developers, our engineers, as part of having any successful cloud or digital transformation. This is crucial because we need to help our individual contributors understand what their roles are within this cloud transformation. And so this being the first barrier that both senior leaders and line managers agreed on and stated was the most critical barrier that they're facing today was really just confirmation of the things that I've been talking about and I've been seeing with my customers that I've interacted with over the last 10 years. Now, the second barrier that both the senior leaders and the line manager stated in this case study is that stakeholder and employee resistance to change and employee engagement was a barrier. Now, again, it's going to be critical on us as senior leaders within our organizations to help overcome this resistance that both our stakeholders and our employees might have towards any digital transformation. Oftentimes, these individuals see any sort of transformation as a negative towards what they've been doing in the past. They see it as us critiquing how they've been operating, and so it comes across initially as you're not doing what you should be doing. We need to help our individual contributors see this as a net positive, as a way for them to both improve their skill sets as well as us as organizations to be able to realize the benefits of a cloud or digital transformation. Now, the third barrier that these senior leaders stated was preventing them from realizing their strategy around digital or cloud transformation is similar to the second in that they continue to see stakeholder and employee resistance as well as low-quality employees. As you can see, these top 3 barriers are really around us as senior leaders within our organization to help our employees, our individual contributors, understand what it is from a broad perspective that we are trying to accomplish so that they can understand their individual roles in this broader digital or cloud transformation. And so we need to overcome this resistance that we see by our employees by over-communicating what it is that we're trying to do, both the benefits, again, to the organization and the benefits to them as individual contributors from a career and technical standpoint. We want them to feel part of this digital transformation that we're undergoing so that they can see that this change that's going on, and really we find ourselves in constant change as we're going through these transformations, as we figure out what works and what doesn't work for our organizations. We have to bring those employees in and get them to see what it is will be a benefit to them individually. Now, I said that those first 3 barriers were agreed upon by both the senior leaders and the line managers, the middle managers, the directors within an organization. It wasn't until reasons 4 and 5 that we saw a divergence between what these 2 groups saw as barriers within their digital transformation efforts. So first, from a senior leader perspective, the 4th thing that they stated was a barrier to them realizing this was competing goals. So they're being pulled in too many directions. When the CIO oftentimes reports to the CFO, really the competing goals around any digital transformation effort are going to come down to cost. So justifying the cost, justifying the expense of enabling our employees to overcome those first 3 barriers that those senior leaders stated in this case study is going to be crucial. And it's a difficult conversation to have when they're reporting to a CFO who really is just worried about dollars and cents. The 5th reason that the senior leaders stated was a lack of funds or unclear business cases. Again, these 2, reasons 4 and reasons 5, really kind of work hand in hand. We have to build out a generous business case and one that's thoroughly vetted to be able to show why this digital or this cloud transformation that we want to undergo, either within our IT organizations solely or within our engineering organizations, or hopefully both working together, is going to be so crucial for the company to be able to be successful moving into the future. Now, the line managers, their 4th reason or their 4th barrier for successfully realizing the benefits of any digital transformation was poor planning and execution strategies. You can see in my previous video that I published how we talk about the inability of organizations to take that digital transformation strategy and the capabilities of our operations and engineering teams to act is so crucial for us to overcome. And that directly aligns with this barrier that these line managers have stated is preventing them from being able to see the operational efficiencies that they're hopefully likely to gain by undergoing any digital transformation. Now, the 5th reason that these line managers stated was organizational change fatigue. I'll give a personal example from my own career history and employment history over the last 10 years that really illustrates this point. Now, when I joined VMware in 2015, I had a vice president. And over the first 3 years that I was a member of one of the internal architecture teams at VMware, I had 3 different vice presidents in those first 3 years, as well as having 3 different senior directors at the same time. We were constantly being shifted between one organization and the next. Were we corporate IT? Were we part of the office of the CIO? Were we part of the engineering group? And we kept bouncing around. Now, this organizational fatigue really starts to wear on you as an individual contributor, because every time you move or change structurally how your organizations are set up, it means those individual contributors, even if the overall business strategy hasn't changed, now you have to get used to how does your direct line manager work? What is his senior director like? What is your vice president like? How are you interacting with them? Do you have a personal relationship with them? And when you're constantly having to restart year after year after year, it becomes very tiring, and you as an individual contributor at some point might start to say, why even bother? It's just going to change again in 6 months. Now, the flip side of this that I see is not just the fatigue that individual contributors feel by this constant change within the organizations, but it's also our inability to give things enough time to realize whether or not they're being successful. When we talk about a digital transformation, and I've spoken about this in the past, we have to realize that to successfully execute a digital or cloud transformation, a CIO or a CTO realistically needs at least 3 years to be able to fully see the benefits from any strategy that they might be laying out. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And so when we're constantly changing organizationally what our teams look like, we're never giving them the time that they need to actually find out, are these things working? Are we being successful? It's very difficult if we're constantly under the threat of change or the cloud of change, I should say, whether or not what we're doing is working or not working. So we need to make sure that we're giving our organizations time to be able to see what is working and what isn't working. And again, if something isn't working, if it's clearly not working, then yes, absolutely, you should try and change things. But we do need to make sure that we're just giving things enough time to breathe, to realize that, hey, is this not working because we've changed it again? These teams suddenly have a new organizational structure. The business priorities have maybe changed slightly. Or is this not working because the direction that we're going on in isn't actually good for us in the long term? There was a lot to digest from this KPMG case study. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about some of the other key aspects of this case study so that you as IT leaders can understand what your peers are saying are their challenges and how they are struggling, and also where they're being successful. Now, I will provide a link to the KPMG case study in the description below. Please make sure that you go and download that PDF and read through it so that you can understand for yourself where your peers are and what might be helpful to you today. Now, I hope that you're enjoying this cloud transformation content that I'm generating. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Virtual Elephant YouTube channel, turn on those notifications, and leave me a comment below. As always, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter @Chris Mutchler, and I look forward to talking to you next time.